Yes, welcome back. 'Tis the season of the sniffles. Sorry. Annie, have you got your flu jabs?
Yes, that was beautiful, Martin.
I know. Quite rhythmic. I was expecting harmony.
I love that song. The flu vaccine is as important as it is overlooked. Influenza might be common enough, but it can still do a whole lot of harm. And here to give us all the info on our vaccines is Director of Pharmacy and Superintendent Pharmacist with Boots, Caoimhe McCauley. Caoimhe, you're very welcome this morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Great. OK, so me and Martin were just saying we're just getting over about the sniffles ourselves, but maybe there's a difference between the common cold and the flu. So what is the flu and how important is it that people be vaccinated against it?
Yeah, so the flu comes around every year, so it's no surprise when we get into this season that we start to talk about it. It is a really common virus. It's the influenza virus, really common at this time of year and very, very easily spread. So normally it's a respiratory type symptoms that you get, so it's cough, sneezes, sniffles, and normally that's how it's spread from person to person.
OK, but yeah, as she was alluding to, some of us get a head cold and we think we've got the flu. The flu can floor you.
Absolutely. They say if you've had the flu, you know when you've had the flu compared to the cold. The symptoms are really, really similar, but generally the flu comes on much more rapidly. So with a cold, you kind of get, as you've described, maybe a wee bit of the sniffles, maybe a bit of a sore throat, and then it progresses. With flu, it's very, very quick, and they say if you've had it, you will not open your door for any amount of money outside it. They're very different.
OK. Who should be prioritising getting the vaccine? Because are there certain groups, are there certain age groups?
Yes. So the flu vaccine at the moment is available to those who are over 60. Another really important group is children, so those between 2 and 12. And then really anybody with underlying medical conditions, so anybody who has something, say, like diabetes, anybody who has any severe respiratory issues, those who are pregnant, and anybody who's involved in healthcare working.
OK, and is there a cost with the vaccine?
For that group that I've just described, no, it's free.
Great.
But for anybody else who falls outside of that group, it can be bought privately. But what I would say is check with your pharmacist, because I've just given you a very short overview of that list, but actually who's actually covered is very comprehensive, because we want to get as many people vaccinated as possible. It really reduces the likelihood of the burden on our healthcare system as we get into winter.
OK, for children, and like a lot will be surprised to hear you say children need to get that vaccine. But it's not an actual injection for children. No,
for children it's a little bit different. So for an adult, it's an injection into the muscle in the upper part of the arm. For a child, it's a nasal vaccine. So it is simply a squirt up each nostril. They don't have to hold their breath. There's nothing complicated with it. It's almost just like a tickle. But that cohort is really, really important, because I suppose, number one, if you think about children, they're much less likely to have been exposed to the flu already, so probably haven't built up much resistance to the flu. Secondly, if you think about how children interact with each other, they're in creches, they're more hands-on.
They are.
Transmission is a lot more likely, and actually children are twice as likely to get the flu virus and hold on to it for slightly longer as well. So if you think about how we all, I suppose, work, we have parents, grandparents, a lot of people involved in care for our children. So transmission rates can be much higher from children to adults as well.
An awful lot of adults looking after parents.
Yes. Absolutely,
and
another really important group as well. And I think the thing to say with flu as well is, obviously, it is a contagious virus. It does pass easily from person to person, but up to 75% of people may also have no symptoms. So exactly as you have just said, if you're looking after, say, vulnerable elderly people or anyone who is vulnerable, it's so important you get the vaccine as well to stop transmission.
OK, so you can have the flu without having any symptoms of it?
You can indeed.
Oh, my goodness. So it can either floor you or it'll also
floor you, or you might not know that you have it.
Oh, my goodness.
But it's estimated that across Europe, between 10 and 30% of the population will be affected by the flu in any given winter season.
OK. We get new variants every year, don't we?
Yes, we do indeed.
And this is important.
And that is why it's so important to get vaccinated each year. So what we do is we look at the Southern Hemisphere, because they have their flu season first. And we look at actually what variants are circulating there. And that gives us a rough idea what it's going to look like in the Northern Hemisphere. And each year, the flu vaccine itself actually looks at what strains are circulating more. And then it's adapted to make sure that those strains are present in the vaccine. So it's really important you get it each year, because it could be a different strain than what you got the previous year. But I suppose the other thing is, even if the strains were identical, the vaccination wears off after a period of time.
Right.
So even if the strains were identical, it might not be strong enough to actually protect you this season. And I think the other really important thing to say about flu is it's preventable. The vaccination is a brilliant tool to really help us protect ourselves.
And you mentioned there the groups that the vaccine is free for, so over 60s or those more vulnerable. Is it the same with the COVID vaccine as well?
So COVID is slightly different. So at the moment we are in the HSE's autumn campaign, and that is those who are over 50 and then those who are over a certain younger age limit as well, with underlying conditions too. But what I would say is, again, the cohort who are entitled to COVID vaccines, it's very broad. So speak to your pharmacist, because the likelihood is if you have an underlying condition, you probably are eligible for that vaccine too. And what I would say is it is so important this year to get that booster dose as well. The flu vaccine does not protect you from COVID, and the COVID vaccine does not protect you from flu. They're two different viruses.
OK, because we have a new COVID variant.
Yes, we do.
That seems to be rampant at the moment. Can I ask you, we've mentioned the groups that need to prioritise flu vaccine. Are there groups that can't get the vaccine?
Very, very limited, to be honest with you. There are people who take a very specific kind of medicine, and those who have had very severe allergic reactions to flu vaccines before that are advised to speak to their doctor. But in the majority of cases, the number of people who can't get the flu vaccine is very, very limited. But speak to your pharmacist and we can help direct you, appropriately to get your vaccine.
OK.
And then I was going to ask, how do we go about making these appointments? How can someone make their appointment to get these vaccines?
Yeah, so if you go on to boots.ie/vaccinations, you can then pick your appointment type. So there'll be different appointment types there. There'll be the straightforward flu vaccine. The other one is the combined flu and COVID vaccine, which is a really important one. You can get both your flu vaccine and your COVID vaccine if you're eligible at the same time, in the same arm or different arms, so you don't need to make 2 trips. And then either you'll be choosing the appointment for children. So you pick your appointment type and you pick a location and a time that suits you. You fill in a questionnaire online and then you turn up to our store, and it's a really quick process, very painless, very quick.
OK, and hopefully then a very easy winter.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, good to see you.
Thanks so much, Caoimhe. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you.
Still to come, the woman who could just be Ireland's most prolific author, Roisin Meany, is in the house.
And we'll be talking to the UK comedy queen, that is Lucy Beaumont. Stay with us.